We were looking at kinked budget lines, and there we talked about, if we go back a little, and we saw that when we were talking about kinked budget lines, so the idea was that budget lines are not always straight lines, and kinked budget lines occur in situations where the price of a good changes after buying a certain amount, as in the slope is going to change because you know the slope of the budget line is a negative ratio of prices. So the budget line won't be straight. And we looked at one example where we said that your income was $200, price of pants was $20, price of shirts was $10, and then we said we first looked at an example where the first six pants you could buy it at 50% less price, and after that you had to buy it at the regular price. So here the marginal price of pants changed from 10 to 20 after the sixth pair of pants. So then here we looked at how this introduced a kink in the budget line. Now we'll change the example slightly, and instead of saying okay the first six pants okay, instead of getting a discount in the first six pants, what you do is you don't get the discount for the first six pants, and after that, all pants get a 50% discount. So we'll now change the example slightly. Initially, we looked at the king budget line under the assumption that first six pants have a discount and the remaining have to be bought at regular price. Here, we're assuming the first six pants have to be bought at the regular price, and after that, all pants get 50% discount. So here the marginal price of pants changes from 20 because that was the original price to 10 after six pair of pants. So budget line will now be split into two line segments based on x1 is less than equal to 6 and x1 greater than 6. Because for x1 less than equal to 6, you have to buy them at the regular price of 20, and for x1 greater than 6, you will buy them at the discounted price of 10. So because the price changes after you buy the sixth pair of pants, so you will split it based upon x1 less than equal to 6 and x1 greater than 6. So first we look at budget line equation for x1 less than equal to 6. So this is simply the undiscounted price 20 times x1 plus 10x2, because we already said the price of shirts is 10 and your income is 200. And from here, we just solve for x2 in terms of x1, because when we plot this budget line, we have x2 on the vertical axis and x1 on the horizontal axis. So if we write it in the form x2 in terms of x1, so then this makes it easy to identify the slope and vertical intercept when graphing it, because it's in the y is equal to mx plus c form. Right, so now we'll write the budget line equation for x1 greater than 6. Now, first, when x1 is greater than 6, you have to first account for the first 6 months which are purchased at the regular price, because we reach this portion x1 greater than 6 after buying 6 months. Because if x1 is greater than 6, it could be value like 8 or 9. So when you're writing a budget line equation, so it has to account for the first 6 months which was purchased at the regular price 20. And then the remaining pants, which is x1 minus 6, will be purchased at the discounted price, because in this case, the discount is veiled after 6 months. Right, so when we're writing this budget line equation for x1 greater than 6, we first account for the first 6 pants, because it's only after you bought them that you reach this portion of the budget line. Those are bought at the regular price of 20, and the remaining x1 minus 6 are bought at the discounted price of 0.5 into 20. And then you have plus 10, x2, and then you have income 200. And from here again, solve for x2 in terms of x1. So our budget line, then we can write our budget line as a function of P1, P2, I. It's all those combinations of x1 and x2 that belong to R2 plus, such that x2 is 20 minus 2x1 for x1 is less than equal to 6, and x2 is 14 minus x1 for x1 is greater than 6. Now, if you want to graphically plot it, okay, so just a second. So I'll continue now. So we said if you want to graphically plot it, now we know the budget line is defined for two line segments, one for x1 less than equal to 6 and one for x1 greater than 6. And we already talked about why are we splitting it based upon 6, because it's after the 6 pair of pants, the price changes from the regular price to the discounted price. So for x1 less than equal to 6, which will be before the kink, we know the budget line equation is x2 is 20 minus 2x1, because it's already in the form of the variable on the y-axis, which is x2 in terms of the variable on x-axis. So comparing it with y is equal to mx plus c, we can identify the slope from here as minus 2, the coefficient of x1, the variable on x-axis, and we can identify the vertical intercept when x1 is 0 as x2 is 20. And we know the kink occurs at x1 is equal to 6, because after 6 you will have the price will change, right? So the marginal price of pant changes after you buy the 6 pair of pants. So the kink happens at x1 is equal to 6, because after this the price is going to change and the budget line will not be straight now, because it will have a different slope because of the change in price. So when x1 is 6, x2 is 8. So we have the kink point also. But then we see for x1 greater than 6 after the kink, the equation of the budget line was x2 is 14 minus x1. And again, this is in the y is equal to mx plus c form, where y is x2 and x is x1 in this case. So we can identify the slope as the coefficient of the variable on the x-axis, which is x1. So slope is minus 1. The horizontal intercept is when x2, and sorry, for the region before the kink, for the budget line before the kink, we'll find the vertical intercept, and while plotting it for the budget line portion after the kink, it's helpful to find the horizontal intercept. So I'll put x2 is equal to 0, x1 will be 14. So now we have everything we need to graph it. We had the kink point, we had the vertical intercept before kink, we had the horizontal intercept after kink, and we had the slopes in both regions. Now we can plot it. When we're going to graph it, first of all, we'll identify where the kink is, where it's going to change slope. So that is where x1 is 6 and x2 is 8, as we found. Before the kink, we saw the vertical intercept is 20. After the kink, we saw the horizontal intercept is 14. Now we just need to join these 3 points. And the way we're going to join them is that we know the slope in this region is -2. The slope in this region should be -1. So this region has to be plotted steeper than this region. So the way we plot a kink budget line is always first identify your kink point, 6, 8. To identify the vertical intercept before the kink, horizontal intercept after the kink. And then you just join these 3 points. And the way you join them, you need to account for the slopes in each region. Here we know the slope is steeper than this region, so we draw this line steeper and this flatter. You just first label it 3 points, the kink point, the vertical intercept before kink, and horizontal intercept after kink. Then you just need to join these and join them in such a way that you account for the slope in each region. Here, the slope here has to be steeper than this. So in this way, we can plot it in a x1, x2 plane.